Then. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on Sri FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kazmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Wumi seeks bail pending appeal after filing a High Court application to challenge his 20-year conviction. We examine the legal grounds and what happens next. Also on the program this afternoon, private schools petition Education Minister as they demand an independent review of the 2026 BECE results, but WAEC insists its marking process was fair and transparent.
This year's BECE assessment, which is conducted by WAEC, the West African Examination Council, as a service provider, we are not happy about the result.
We'll bring you all that you need to know this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Regional Coordinating Council, led by the Greater Accra Regional Minister Lindo Klu, has given property owners along the Laboma beach area in the Dadekotopon municipality a 21-day ultimatum to relocate. The minister stated that after the 21-day period, all structures confirmed to be within the buffer zone of the Kweshi Lagoon will be demolished. Joseph Armstrong is with the inspection team. He joins us live on the phone. Joe, tell us why this sudden notice to residents to relocate.
Yeah, so for the minister, after the 29th June flood in that hit part of the capital and other parts of the country, the president gave a direct order that every single building sited on waterway should be pulled down. And if you look at the Laboma area, for instance, you see that Kweshi Lagoon has its reaches leading into the sea along that area. And over the years, a lot of development has taken place over there, and this reason the regional minister, led by the Greater Accra Regional Police Commander, the Fire Service Police Commander, and other security personnel this morning went to the place, and what they say they went to do was to assess buildings sited on the waterways. I could count at least no less than some over 25 or 50 buildings that have been earmarked for demolition, but later the minister said that they are doing an assessment to see which of these buildings are within the buffer area. After 21 days, if any of those buildings are seen to be within the buffer area, they will be put on Beatrice.
What has been the general reaction since you entered the place?
So that place is quite volatile, where you see these land guards moving around the area. You could hear from behind you trying to take shots that you should thank your God you came with security personnel would have dealt with you. The mood around that area, the people that believe that the land belongs to them, hence they have the right to put buildings along those waterways. And if not for the security personnel, I'm sure none of the media guys could have stepped foot there with our cameras to take shots. So, well, they will not sound happy about it, but we look forward to see what happens after the 21 days given by the Regional Coordinating Council.
Indeed, but there was no confrontation with the security officials and those people you call land guards.
There was none I saw, but you could just hear them whispering among themselves that go and come again on your own, you see what we'll do to you. But for the security personnel, I did not see any confrontation between them and the land guards, Beatrice.
Thank you very much. And that was my colleague Joseph Armstrong Gold. Look, we're currently within the Laboma Beach area where there's an inspection of buildings going on to demolish the ones that are within the buffer zone, as it were, regarding the Kweshi Lagoon. And we'll bring you an update as and when we have it. Now, convicted Ashanti Regional Chairman of the opposition NPP, Bernard Enchibuesiakon, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, has filed an application at the High Court seeking bail pending the determination of his appeal against his conviction. The notice of motion filed by his lawyer Samuel Atachia Ozoe Achia and Co. invokes Section 96(1) of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1960, asking the court to admit Wontumi to bail pending the hearing and determination of his appeal. Chairman Wontumi was convicted and sentenced to 20 years imprisonment after he was found guilty of assigning Akunta Mining's mineral concessions to a third party without prior approval from the minister. Let me just bring you a summary, as it were, of the core argument in the appeal. And it says the whole trial was wrong in law, and the appeal raises substantial, serious, and arguable questions of law and fact with overwhelming prospects of success. The conviction proceeded upon grave errors of law which substantially affected the outcome of the trial. The appeal discloses several exceptional circumstances warranting the exercise of this honorable court's discretion in favor of the applicant. And the appeal raises genuine and substantial constitutional interpretation questions regarding Article 1911 of the Constitution. It says the learned trial judge usurped the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in flagrant violation of Article 132 of the Constitution. And I'll just read the last bit to you, which says, the continued presence of the applicant with his lawyer will be necessary and vital in the successful preparation and prosecution of the appeal. So that's the seeking for bail bits that I'm just talking to you about. And it says the applicant has credible people of good character and sufficient means and substance who are willing, able, and ready to stand as sureties for him. Let's speak to Christian Hesimam. He's a private legal practitioner. He joins us live on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners. Thanks for having me.
Now, Chairman Wontumi has filed for bail pending the appeal after his 20 years conviction, as it were. Legally, what must an applicant satisfy before a court grants bail pending appeal?
All right. It's quite clear. The position of the law has been ratified and settled in a number of cases. But key amongst them is what Taylor J. as he then was, and Ulenu as he also then was opined. Now, basically, this leading principle is in the case of Finn and another versus the Republic. And the court took the opportunity to establish, amongst other things, that in quoting what Olenu J. as he then was had said in the State versus Owusu, and in that it laid a three-part test in order for this discretionary power to be exercised by the court, because leading up to that, the discretionary power was a bit difficult for the court in assessing. Now, it indicated that, first and foremost, the bail will not be granted pending an appeal, save in exceptional circumstances. So the court spent a lot of time in dealing with what the exceptional circumstances may be, and further went on to say that the bail will also be granted pending an appeal, save that where the hearing of the appeal is likely to be unduly delayed, having regard to the length of time which must elapse before the appeal can be heard, and the length of the sentence be appealed from. So the court also would look at the length of the appeal. Is it likely to cause delay? If it would not, then the court will not be hesitant to grant an appeal in that circumstance. the court also was minded to look at whether or not in granting bail, whether the court is satisfied that the conviction is prima facie erroneous. So the court is going to look at the conviction itself, the judgment, and look at it whether or not there is error apparent on the face of it. So these are the three main cases, the three main principles that the court is going to look at. Now, we should move our minds away, or in this case, the court emphasized that conviction before bail, as in bail before conviction, and bail after conviction, which is the current situation, they are two different things. So, in looking at bail before conviction, as in when someone is arraigned before court and then bail is brought to the court, so the Martin Table kind of case deals with all those things. Now, bail after conviction, Olenu and then Olenu and the case as I mentioned, they went and established the three principles that should guide it. So I see the accused person having a very difficult hurdle ahead, unless he is able to, or his lawyers are able to convince the court that indeed the conviction has granted him, there is a prima facie case to be made that it is erroneous. They also have to inform or demonstrate to the court that the time within which the appeal will be heard will be so long, the length of it will not afford justice to the imprisoned person. So for that matter, the court should exercise bail and all of that. So these are the three-pronged tests that await the counsel for Wumi to canvass and convince the court before the bill be granted. It has nothing to do with whether they have persons of integrity to stand as sureties and all. No.
As stated in what I read.
On the distinction. Yes. The court is so clear on the distinction that conviction before bail and conviction and bail after conviction, they are two separate things. The principles apply separately, and it is what it is. It is a settled area of law. Yeah.
Not asking you to be prejudicial, though, but looking at the circumstances of the Wumi case, is it more likely that we may see this granted by the court?
It would be difficult for me to say because I am not the quorum. I do not form quorum. And that would be prejudicial in a way. But by way of educating the public, these are the principles that the learned counsel ought to canvass before the court in order to swing favor in his side.
Thank you very much, lawyer, for speaking to us. And you heard the Christian Mamhesi. He's a private legal practitioner. Now, the Ghana National Council of Private Schools and its members are this afternoon petitioning the Minister for Education, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, after accusing the West African Examination Council, WAEC, of using an unfair marking system that allegedly disadvantaged private school candidates in the 2026 Basic Education Certificate Examination. The BEC, the group, is demanding an independent review of WAEC's marking scheme. And let's listen to Ohene Obinfo Kwesi, who is Executive Director for the National Council for Private Schools.
Has actually instituted and included private senior high schools in the free SHS policy. And so on that score, we believe that you think and believe in private education, which has been instituted in the 1992 Constitution, particularly Article 25+2. That speaks about private participation in Ghana in terms of education delivery. Over the years, private education has contributed to the growth of education in Ghana. And we all can attest to the fact that the product of these, private institutions come together to support the building of this nation. This year's BEC assessment, which is conducted by WAEC, the West African Examination Council, as a service provider, we are not happy about the results. Nobody, and want to put it on record, that in terms of assessment, no one is better credible witness to testify the credibility of assessment in terms of our students, because we have been with these students over decades. And we know and understand the formative rudiments that we have taken them through in terms of assessment. Upon reflection from all our members from the country and students that we represent, parents that we represent, and major stakeholders that we represent, we have come to conclusion that there must be an independent body set up to review the conduct of this year's BEC examination, particularly the results that has been given to.
And you heard there Obinfo Kwesi, he's the Executive Director of the National Council for Private Schools, speaking to the press earlier when the group presented its petition before the Education Ministry. And we had the Deputy Minister for Education, Clement Apak, receiving that petition on behalf of the ministry. Listen.
And to indicate that the Honorable Minister would have been here himself. As you know, he's a very engaging, affable, open, transparent minister. But other very important duties have caused his absence. He has directed me and instructed me to meet you this morning and to receive this petition on his behalf. And that is exactly why I am here. But be rest assured that His Excellency John Dramani Mohammed's government and our Minister for Education, Harun Idrisu, believe strongly in the role the private sector has to play in the very important delivery of education.
And you had the Deputy Education Minister, Clement Apak. Meanwhile, the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, has dismissed allegations that it discriminated against candidates from private schools in the release of the 2026 Basic Education Certificate Examination result. The council also says it is open to any independent investigation into the controversy, provided the review is undertaken by experts in examination assessment. This is after the National Association of Private Schools accused WAEC of marking down private candidates in this year's examinations. At a press conference, the head of public relations at WAEC, John Kapi, rejected the allegations, describing them as baseless and unsupported by evidence.
WAEC wishes to assure all stakeholders, parents, guardians, school proprietors, educational authorities, and the general public that the Council's assessment and grading processes are guided by internationally accepted principles of fairness, objectivity, consistency, and integrity. Under no circumstances does WAEC discriminate against candidates on the basis of whether they attended private or public schools.
And you heard there John Kapi, he speaks for WAEC. Now, Koforidua Technical University has suspended all SRC-related activities and constituted a committee to probe the arrest of 7 students over alleged cannabis-infused products during SRC week celebrations. The management says 7 of the 10 persons picked up by the Narcotics Control Commission on August 1 are students of the university and are currently assisting investigations in Accra. And my colleague Yvonne Nikwe will be joining us very shortly. But ahead of that, let's hear an official of the school speaking to her earlier.
Management got to know that 7 out of the 10 persons were or are students of this university. I mean, 3 of them are not our students. Well, I mean, we are still trying to unravel what happened. So in order to get to the specifics, a committee has been constituted, to investigate. and submit their recommendations. And when the recommendations are submitted, we will get to know what really happened on that day. But at this material moment, we are unable to know whether those external, the three external, persons who were part of the arrest.
And you had there an official of the Koforidua Technical University. Let's hear from the Eastern Regional Coordinator of the Narcotics Control Commission, Philomena Obenewa-Saka, who also warned students to stay away from drug-related activities or face the full rigors of the law.
To my young ones, I know that most of them get into it ignorantly. Let me use this opportunity to tell all my tertiary students especially, any form of infused drink is illegal if the infused is with cannabis. So when we come, whether you were buying, whether you were selling, it is illegal. And take note, they lure you in freely. Someone will buy it for you. You drink it, you get addicted. And by the time you realize you are now buying it with your own money, chasing it all over. So my advice is that no one has ever gotten any award for using drug.
And you had the Eastern Regional Coordinator of the Narcotics Control Commission, Philomena Obenewa-Saka. In Accra, the Ghana Police Service has made 2 major drug-related interceptions, recovering suspected cocaine worth nearly $7 million and seizing suspected Indian hemp in separate intelligence-led operations. The Accra Regional Police Commander, DCOP Eric Esidu Asamoah, told the press that in the first operation at the Tema Harbour, police arrested 3 suspects after discovering 866 parcels of suspected cocaine concealed in sacks of gari, allegedly prepared for export.
The police observed the sacks of gari were being loaded into the container, which was mounted on a white DAF truck bearing registration number WR 1118-10. The 3 persons, together with the truck, were brought to the regional headquarters for further investigation. A search of the sacks of gari subsequently led to the recovery of 866 parcels of a white substance suspected to be cocaine, with a street value of $6,928,000.
So here on the Medani is on 3FM 92.7. You just had the Tema Regional Police Commander DCOP Eric Asamoah speaking to the press earlier. Now, farmers cultivating land along the White Volta at Pualugu in the Talensi district of the Upper East region have begun harvesting their crops and relocating to higher ground ahead of the annual Bagri Dam spillage, which is expected anytime soon. Upper East Regional Correspondent Tanko Mohammed Rabiu filed this report for us earlier.
The annual spillage of the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso has had a significant impact downstream in Ghana, particularly along the White and Black Volta rivers in the Talensi and Boko West districts respectively. The spillage increases water levels in the rivers, resulting in flooding that affect farmland, homes, livestock and critical infrastructure. Ahead of this year's spillage, farmers in Pualugu have already begun harvesting their crops to minimize potential losses. Chairman of the Pualugu Farmers Association, who has farmed along the river since 1981, expressed concern over the recurring flooding caused by the Bagri Dam spillage.
Since from that time I was farming, the floods was not always coming this way. At least maybe 5 years before you can get water coming, that it will not come and destroy our crops. In fact, we have no any other place that we can go and do the farming apart from the river banks, because we have no land that we can go and do the farming apart from the river lands. And some of us, we use the river banks to farm onions and tomatoes and all that.
The Talensi District NADMO Coordinator, Bismarck Farouk, outlined the agency's sensitization plans aimed at preventing casualties and minimizing the impact of the expected flooding.
Farmers should stay a bit distant from the river banks. Though they have their crops there, but it's better they save their lives than to get involved in any dangers that may bring us challenge. And so since the last 3 days, we have been on the ground, Nadbo.
And that report was filed by our Upper East Regional Correspondent, Tanko Mohammed Rabiu. Let's bring you some politics now. And the New Patriotic Party is calling for an immediate end to harassment amid arrest of its members and sympathizers who freely express their views on national issues, warning against the use of law enforcement bodies to stifle dissent. Thousands of NPP members and supporters took to the streets on Thursday for the Democracy Under Attack demonstration, demanding for a stronger judicial system not influenced by partisan politics. My colleague Christian Yale was with the protesters and brought us this report as well.
They promised to make it massive, and they delivered on that. Thousands of members and supporters of the main opposition, New Patriotic Party, overwhelmed the NPP's Democracy Under Attack demonstration. Spirited and unyielding, they first marched to the frontage of the Supreme Court to present a petition for the Chief Justice. Through the Yoko stretch, they headed towards the National Theatre area, but they would change direction for a different route.
Stop here!
The NPP says it is worried about the selective use of justice, noting what it describes as the fast-paced trials for persons in opposition.
You now turn around and we're arresting people. And we don't say you shouldn't arrest people, but there should be decency.
We just want to remind that no dictator emerges from nowhere and foists dictatorship on the people. It starts gradually. Sometimes the people at the helm of affairs are not even aware. Sometimes it's intentional. We want to believe that the president perhaps has not done serious introspection on what is going on.
This was not what Akufo-Addo led for John Mahama. Today in Ghana, what the youth are asking for is a 24-hour economy, not a 24-hour arrest system.
Party leadership, led by the minority leader, handed over a petition to the presidency, despite initial reservations over the receiver.
We feel that, with great respect to you and without prejudice to your presence, to nominate only you to come amount to disrespecting us as a political party.
Everybody knows what today is. Today is the day of memorial for the 8th gallant chief. And I'm happy that honorable leader is saying that I am a nobody. But I want to assure you that I'm a senior member of government, and this petition will directly get...
Christian Yali brought us that report yesterday from that protest. Let's speak to Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the Opposition NPP. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Hello?
Hello?
Mr. Mohammed, can you hear us? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Just one question, though. Yesterday, when the NPP embarked on the protest, there were a lot of criticisms from particularly the government and other individuals that it was a national day of mourning, and the NPP chose to have its protest on that day. In addition to that, people have also been concerned about how the minority leader, Alexander Penyomarkin, described Nanaya Ajanto. How do you respond to all of these?
Thank you very much. I would like to say good afternoon to your cherished listeners and those of your listeners following you over your social media handles. It is very interesting that after the demonstration happened yesterday, we are getting interesting conversations from that. With respect to the first issue, where people are talking about the issue of the demonstration and the National Day of Mourning, it will interest you to know that if you ask the larger population of the citizens of Ghana, many people will not even be able to remember any announcement of a National Day of Mourning in respect to the fallen heroes of our dear country. But what is official for all of us to know is that the NPP as a political party issued a statement to that particular effect with regards to the National Day of Mourning and sympathizing with the family. And also, we also sent the National the chairperson of the National Council of Elders of our party, Honorable Hagman Osuajiman, who was participating in that particular event. We also sent Honorable Abuna Osaya Tari, who represented a minority. They represented us at the National Day of Mourning. With regards to the mourning, nobody can choose for us as to when we do our demonstration. Once we mourn with the people, we are at the liberty, at the behest of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, to demonstrate legally, to drum home our point. The National Day of Mourning Day could be the day that we expected the people to even listen with the sorrowful nature of what has happened. But the people have demonstrated to us clearly that the NTOBR syndrome is still in them, and they will not listen, because the Deputy General Secretary of their party, who is also a Deputy Director of Operation at the Presidency, says that they will not even read the petition, and we preempted this before. So we carefully selected that particular day without any emotional attachment to those who have lost their lives.
Forgive me, for the sake of time, are you able to respond to the Nanaya bit?
Well, with respect to Nanaya Agentua's aspect, yes, I hold the same view with the minority leader. You see, if Nanaya Agentua was a former General Secretary of the NDC, standing there to receive the document on behalf of government, nobody would have complained within the party. This is a national party that is making a presentation to the government of the Republic of Ghana, which is an NDC government. You know that Nanaya Agentua lacks principle, and she has two fees. So,
Mr. Mohammed, respectfully,
media,
I do not think that you can use those words to describe. How do you mean that she lacks principles?
Because her principality depends on the political party.
Would you like to withdraw and apologize for that?
Please. What withdraw? If we have always
for
told
describing
even the
somebody who is not even here, who is not even.
The NDC.
Mr. Mohammed, you are describing somebody who is not even here. Already yesterday, the minority said that he expected somebody else to come than only her, and you are here describing her as lacking principles. I do not think that it is fair to do that, and I'm giving you the opportunity to retract and apologize.
Not retract it, because that is my point of argument.
So it means you disagree with the people who think that how the minority member, the minority leader addressed there was wrong. It was disrespectful.
It wasn't wrong.
To her.
It was a collective decision. I said so, and I said that it was disrespectful to allow Nanaya Agentua to take a petition from us, looking at the nature and the gravamen of the presentation that we were making. I think it was an attack on the petition that we are submitting to the presidency. And I stand by the minority leader.
We've run out of time. Thank you very much for speaking to us. And you had Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the MPP. Coming up shortly is Business Daily with Michael Obodu. Thank you for staying with us on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Log on to shrenews.com for more news.
Lifestyle radio station.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Afrobarometer report reveals strong African support for free trade despite low public awareness of AfCFTA across the continent. Plus, government of Ghana targets 6.217 billion cedis and 7th straight oversubscription in Treasury bill auction. I am Michael Obodu. Details coming up shortly. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for your time. A new Afrobarometer report has revealed a major gap between Africa's growing support for free trade and the awareness of the African Continental Free Trade Area AfCFTA. The study found that while nearly 2/3 of Africans favor expanding international trade to create economic opportunities, only 13% of citizens had heard of the continent's flagship free trade agreement. Even in Ghana, which hosts the AFTA Secretariat, awareness stands at just 17%, raising concerns about the level of public engagement with Africa's biggest economic integration project. This report has the details.
The 2026 African Insights Report, based on surveys conducted in 38 African countries, found that only 13% of Africans have heard of the AfCFTA, despite it being one of the world's largest free trade agreements. In Ghana, which hosts the AfCFTA Secretariat and was among the first African countries to ratify the agreement, public awareness. In Ghana, which hosts the AfCFTA Secretariat and was among the first countries to ratify the agreement, public awareness stands at just 17%. Despite this, support for free trade continues to grow. 62% of Africans believe governments should make it easier to trade with other countries to create economic opportunities, up from 51% 5 years ago. The report also found that 2/3 of respondents want their governments to expand trade globally, while fewer favor focusing only on Africa or their sub-region. Afrobarometer warns that governments cannot assume public backing for the AfCFTA will come automatically. It is urging policymakers to intensify public education and communication efforts to help citizens understand how increased intra-African trade can strengthen economic growth and improve Africa's competitiveness in the global economy.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, the latest data from the Ghana Statistical Service gives Bank of Ghana more room to maneuver as it watches macroeconomic stability and market conditions for next policy rate decision. The GSS figures show the country's year-on-year headline inflation cooled to 4.6% in July 2026, dropping 0.7 percentage points from the 5.3% recorded in June. The drop defied market expectations following 3 consecutive months of upward pressure on consumer prices.
The July inflation rate signals Ghana's disinflation process has returned after a 3-month streak of rising price pressures. Food inflation slowed to 3.1% from 3.9%, easing pressure on the family shopping basket. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu noted the slowdown was driven mainly by lower food price growth, which offset broader inflationary pressures.
Prices are still rising, but more slowly. Month on month, prices rose by 0.1% between June and July 2026. Non-food inflation, meaning everything else apart from food, was 6.1%, down from 6.3%.
Households and businesses are encouraged to use the lower inflation environment to plan confidently, strengthen budgets, manage costs prudently, and take advantage of improving price stability to save, invest, and support growth.
Watch your service bills, including transport, rent, and school fees, most closely, because service inflation is still high at 8.5%. Compare before you buy. For businesses, price your goods and write your contracts on the official inflation rates. Lock in supplier arrangements while imported inflation is 2% in July 2026.
The country's inflation is homegrown as locally produced items drive 86.7% of inflation, while imported goods rose only 2.0%, from 10.8% in Northeast to negative 3.8% in Bono East. The cost of living differs sharply by region. The surprise slowdown suggests price pressures remain contained, giving the Bank of Ghana more room to maneuver as it watches macroeconomic stability and market conditions.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. To some more stories, government goes to the domestic money market to borrow 6.21 billion cedis through its weekly Treasury bill auction. The exercise, labelled as Tender 2019, is expected to cover the standard tenors as government seeks to score 7-week streak of oversubscription. This report has the details.
The auction comes as government continues to rely on short-term borrowing to finance budget operations and manage maturing debt. The auction is expected to maintain strong investor interest. Government has recorded 6 consecutive weeks of oversubscription on Treasury bills and is aiming to extend that to a 7th straight week with this offer. 3 business attributes the sustained demand to easing inflation, improved investor confidence, attractive yields that continue to make T-bills a preferred instrument for banks and institutional investors, and investor appetite for government securities. The results of Tender 2019 will provide fresh signals on government borrowing costs and liquidity conditions in the domestic market. A 7th consecutive